club versus cult. Do you ever get the feeling that you're in a room, a space, and something is just off? It feels like the energy is off, or I mean, they're really nice and really kind and really helpful, and everybody's super excited. But something's off, and you start wondering, did I join a club or did I join a cult? Um, I want to give 3 signs to tell the difference. And then at the very end, I want to share one powerful, powerful, powerful thought for what I think creates more cults, like actually turns healthy spaces into cult like mentalities that maybe it started healthy, but then it changed. Because I think a lot of things do. They might start out healthy and then they change. And a lot of people are hurt on the backside of this. So, whether it is a spiritual community like a church, whether it is a business community, whether it is a coaching environment, um, whatever it is, I think that there is a possibility of turning any healthy space into a cult like mentality if we're not aware of what creates the difference between a club, which is healthy, which is voluntary, which is meant to serve you, versus a cult, which is it's all about you serving them and their agenda. So there is a simple test that I use to figure this out, and it's the club versus cult test, really. So I want to describe what the difference is between these 3 things. And because if it's shrinking you in any way, if it's shrinking your clarity, if it's shrinking your freedom, if it's shrinking your peace, it's time to get out fast. I don't care if you're the only person that feels that way. You would be wise to acknowledge the danger signs that you are sensing. I'm going to be super honest. I'm not going to be super detailed, but I have been in a lot of spaces that may not qualify for 100% this is a cult, but they were growing in a cult like vibe. And by the way, also let me say it for this way, if you're a visionary, because you seek growth so much, you'll want to be even more aware of the danger signs, because they feed on that desire for growth and community and, let's get to the next level. The secret next level, it's like, what's the difference between the next level of success and the secret next level that only a few people are invited to join into? And also, I want to say this for the leaders, you out there who are gifted with an abundance of charisma. You can get accused often of creating a cult-like vibe because you welcome people in so quickly and easily, and that can make you unsure. And so I want to share these steps with you too, so that you'll know, oh, hey, I'm not creating a cult here. That is an unfounded accusation, okay? So don't try to remember everything I say in this. Listen for your aha moment, and when you hear it, just jot it in the comments, aha, and your key takeaway. And that will actually help you get more out of this video than if you try to remember everything I say. And you can always come back. YouTube loves it when more people repeat watch the stuff. All right, but here it is. I always ask myself, does this feel more like a club or a cult? So a club might feel exclusive, but a cult feels exclusionary. As in, a club is open to anyone that is going to rise to that standard. So, it might be an exclusive club, it might be a yacht club, it might be a community, like a business community, like we only let in people who are at a certain income level, or this space is reserved for men only or women only, or this space is reserved for people trying to achieve this. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that helps a lot when we put ourselves in exclusive spaces like that so that we can focus more deeply on a goal and so that we enjoy a community that wants to go deep with us in whatever it is. And it could be a club for anything, getting into the Olympics, learning how to knit. There's just so many different types of clubs. Clubs really enhance our enjoyment of life because we find like-minded people who are into our thing as deeply as we are. That's the exclusive nature of a club. You wouldn't get it, dear husband of mine, why I love this book club so much, because we have different reading tastes. Nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with being exclusive and creating a club mentality. A cult, however, is like exclusionary. We're the only ones. We're the best ones. Everybody wants to be us, and not everybody can be us. You have chosen to rise above the commoners. If you don't conform, you can't be in. You've got to, it is totally different. It's very close together, but the vibe on the backside of it is totally different. Instead of excitement, there's a little bit of fear of loss of what if I get kicked out? What if I mess up? What if I don't conform enough? There's fear underneath it. So think cults. Club has an open door. A cult wants to lock the door. Get in and then lock the door, because if you're not with us, you're against us. Oh, and that is a huge one. That is probably the biggest mistake that I see is when any space adopts the attitude, if you're not with us, then you're against us. And it's like, now you're setting up a problem. You're really setting up confusion. You're causing people to go against their values. You're causing their values to conflict. And that's my first sign that I'm out. If you're not with us, you're against us. It's like, fine. I mean, I don't see myself as against you. I just see myself as not joining you anymore. If you think that you're the only thing that's happening in town, sometimes this is a church, you're the only thing that's happening in town, you're the only people doing good stuff, you're the only, that is an us versus them mentality. That is exclusionary versus exclusive, okay? Second warning sign. This is huge. This is what comes next. Think versus obey. So a club is going to encourage growth, questions, discussion. If you're in a business community or you're in a coaching space, they want to talk about why this works. And when you say, it's not working for me, why isn't it? Then they are diving into that. They welcome the question because at the end of the day, they are there to serve the space, to serve the people, to help people get better results. But a cult, questions are betrayal. You are not meant to bring any doubt. They might even say that. Well, if you have doubt, it's not going to work for you. And it's like, that is not even true. In fact, one of my favorite passages in Scripture talks about a man who came to Jesus for his son or daughter, I forget which, to be healed. And Jesus said to the man, to those who believe, all things are possible. And this is the man's answer. And this is the key difference between a club and a cult. The man said, I believe, help thou my unbelief. Like, I'm trying, but I also have doubts. Jesus did not condemn that. Jesus healed from that. As in, doubts are not a problem in a healthy space. In a healthy space, somebody's saying, oh, what do you have doubts about? Maybe I can help. Maybe I can shed some light. Maybe I can bring some clarity. But doubts are not a problem, okay? In a cult-like, unhealthy space, doubts are a problem because they'll even say things like, well, doubt spread. We need to nip that in the bud. Or, like we need to make sure, you never say anything negative. You only say positive things. Gossip is a problem. 100% gossip is a problem. But something negative does not mean it's gossip. It might mean that it's just something negative that the leadership doesn't want repeated. Okay. That is, they are teaching, they are literally, instead of helping you think better, they're teaching you to adhere to blind obedience. Maybe there's a place for that in highly structured places like the military in times of war, or young children when they're in a dangerous space. That is not maturity, though. That is not how adults are supposed to be living their lives. If you're in a space where they're just wanting a non-thinking drone, you're in the wrong space, okay? Because that's not how we were meant to live our life. And then, so the word picture I want you to picture here on this think versus obey, a club leader will give you a map, wants to give you a map and a compass. Like, this is how we get to the next level. This is how we get to the next step. This is how you're going to reach the next level up in, judo. My daughter's in judo. This is how you get the belt, the next belt. But a cult leader burns your map. You don't need to think. You just need to listen. You just need to obey. Once you start obeying better, then you'll get there. No. All right, so the third sign that you're in the wrong room is it's creating freedom or it's creating fear. In a club setting, your life is better for having participated in it, even for a short time, even if you leave. Okay, you learned something from it and you were allowed to leave graciously. Ideally. I mean, people don't like to be left. People don't like to, people are still going to people in either space. But in a cult, you feel terrified to walk away. You feel like you're going to lose your social network. You're going to lose your identity even. You are definitely, you're losing your peace if you stay, but you're losing your safety net if you leave. As in, if I am out of here, then what will happen to me? Will they reject me? Can we be friends on the other side or not? That is a cult-like mentality. That is a sign that this space is unhealthy for you, and it's certainly, if no other reason, then it is unhealthy for your personal development, which is what is really most important in this. If somebody says, well, the mission is more important than you, that's a sign that the space is not for me. This space is for that mission, and they don't care about me. Everything's going to bow to that. If the leader's more important than you, that's a sign. So when you join a space, know the reason you're joining it for, okay? Here's a little pet peeve. Too many times people use the stamp of God in a space. Like, God would want you here. God would want you. And that gets it really fuzzy because no, God would want you to be mature and to make your own decisions and to decide from peace, confidence, clarity, faith, love, joy, rather than from fear. Fear that I might be wrong if I don't, okay? If they're giving out the vibe, you might be wrong if you don't do it. Just don't. Be wrong. Figure it out. Go find another space that helps you figure out a better way, okay? Not an exclusionary way. All right, so a word picture for this is a club is telling you in some way, grow wings. We want more for you. We want better for you. And a cult is saying that you're going to fall without us. You need us. You better stick around. So now, here is the last piece that I wanted to say. Why? Why does this happen? It's because too many of us are bringing cult-like thinking to what might otherwise be a healthy space. Any space can start out healthy, but if too many people start doubting their own wisdoms, doubting their own judgment, or they're unaware of their own values, what's important to them, and they start subjugating those and relying upon the leader's confidence, the leader's charisma, the leader's vision, that is the soil that grows cult-like thinking. Be aware of it. When you come into a space, know the reason you're there. That will protect you more than anything else. Why am I signing up for this group? Why am I visiting this church? Why am I interested in them? And if the answer is because I feel lost and I feel like they have all the answers, okay, that's the dangerous ground. That's the dangerous soil. Find out for yourself, what is it that I'm actually looking for that I hope they will supply? Like even in the judo world, are you going for the fellowship or the enjoyment or the physical activity? Or are you signing up for a highly competitive space that'll, challenge you to go to the next level? They're two different vibes. And they bring two different intentions to it. And that's on purpose. And that's actually a good thing. But frustration happens when we don't know our purpose for signing up and we sign ourselves into the wrong space, and then we start doubting our thinking, and then we start relying on bowing down to their thinking. There's a better word for it. I'm totally blanking out. But we start borrowing their thinking. We start over-relying upon their thinking instead of using our wisdom. Even when I'm in a coaching space, I intentionally know why I'm going into a coaching space. And as a person who really truly believes that our thoughts create our results, and above all, be careful what you think because your thoughts control your life. That's a Bible verse. It's a great Bible verse. Even knowing and believing that to the deepest of my level, when I go into a space, a lot of times I'm saying, I want to hear how I think about this versus how this person who has a different result from me, a better result that I want, how they think about it. And I'm listening for their thinking. I'm not blindly adopting their thinking. I'm still using discernment. Do you hear the difference? One space is going to encourage you in discernment, and the other space is going to discourage you and increase your doubt. Or say you're wrong for doubting, which is wrong. If anything, you're not wrong for doubting. Noticing the doubt can be the beginning of the discernment. Okay? So, if you've ever wondered, is this space healthy or unhealthy? Is it giving off cult-like vibes? Or are they just really intense about their passion, and maybe I'm just not that intense? These are the questions you want to ask. And understand this, the more gifted you are, the more vulnerable you are, not because you're weak, but because you care deeply. So you're wanting to grow, you're wanting to invest, you're wanting to be all in, you're wanting to be all in on a mission that speaks to your soul. But without discernment, that hunger and that drive can turn to dependence fast. So be aware of it so that you can watch for it. And then you don't have to worry about it. There is no fear in me that I will get captured by a cult or by a charismatic leader. I enjoy being around the ones that align with my values and the ones that show me what's possible more. But no longer do I fear that I will be captured by it, because I've learned to listen to what's important to me, what are my values, what I wanting to gain from the space, what am I wanting to contribute to the space. And I'm not writing a blank check to any space with my time, my attention, my life, my hopes, my dreams, or anything. Decide intentionally. So, I hope this has helped. if you'd like more help or if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. In the description, I have a link to aprilbragg.com/connect, and I have some more free resources. Take whatever speaks to you. Take whatever you need, okay? All right. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.